In taking an Indigenous standpoint in my research, having lived white, I privilege Aboriginal country names and language groups in this mapping, as well as naming country as a living presence, a familiar place that is deepened for me in taking this standpoint. Contemporary Aboriginal knowledge told through story, art, music, dance, performance and conversation keeps me close to the source of understanding. As I unpack the details of my own journey, I see the pattern of my identity as a connection to country emerge clearly. My part in this story of family, as well as the bigger story of the history of this country, is where I begin. In this time map, each image presents a visual representation of the different country I have lived on, as well as places my ancestors have lived, worked and travelled. The second half of the overview drawing illustrates country I only know by name, which is sketched or lightly marked, almost invisible. An important part of my PhD research is to fill in the gaps of knowledge, to get to know these places and to imagine through archival and country records what life was like for my ancestors. I am searching for the country of my Aboriginal great-grandmother, whose country and clan are still a mystery to our family 4 generations later. Wiradjuri country. I know I have ancestors who lived on Wiradjuri country near Bathurst. I outlined my First Nations standpoint positioning where I privilege Aboriginal country names and language groups, as well as naming country as a living presence, and draw an oral and other historical sources, as well as contemporary Aboriginal knowledge told through story, art, music, dance, performance and conversation. Gadigal country. My birth country is Gadigal, which is in the inner Sydney region of Darlinghurst. The colourful drawing represents the vibrant, full of life energy of this country, and the feathery edges of the image give the appearance of movement. The blue in the image represents Beja, air, and Bardu, water. The green is the growth and newness I see in the Aboriginal-led changes occurring where acknowledgement of Aboriginal knowledge, language and custodianship of country is being recognised. And the purple illustrates the abiding spiritual presence of Aboriginal cultural knowledge and tradition. Bundjalung country. My growing up country, Bundjalung, was on a farmland in northern New South Wales, where I felt a well of sadness and emptiness. The drawing captures my sadness of being left only with the tiny pockets of bush dominated by fenced-off paddocks of cleared land, where once there had been a rainforest of giant cedar trees and diverse life. Sea country. My learning country is the country of Biddle and Wallagubba country near Townsville in North Queensland, and the Irraganji country of the Cairns region. Here I became a teacher in a community and was involved in Aboriginal education, land council meetings and Aboriginal treaty forums. With an Aboriginal colleague, we travelled into the Gulf country, to the Kyalite River or Edward River country. Later, I travelled to the traditional land of the Kukuyau or Lockhart River regions, where 6 traditional language groups live together. I was a teacher, but really I was a student, learning much from the culture and country of my generous colleagues. The right side of the image notes my Irish, Scottish and English ancestors. Finally, I bring elements of each of these maps together in the final image called Mapping Ancestors from Australia and Overseas. I now live in Darug country, near the Blue Mountains west of Sydney. I represent Darug country in the top left corner of the image as interconnected and moving in the green and purple strands, representing the many facets of life in this country, grounded in the underlying circular patterns representing the traditional custodians, the Darug people, and their continuing presence. Here I have raised my family close to the bushland and to the animals, birds, and insects we share it with. I have daily encounters with the bird life that provides me with much knowledge and understanding as I learn to observe what messages their presence would have me reflect on. The bottom right corner illustrates Wurundjeri country. This is where my Aboriginal heritage is thought to come from.